issue. That is what we want to, dissect and have a good perspective, so that we can have a good sort of policy outcome from all this, and we don't suffer year to year in a manner worse than the previous year. So that was our basic brief. We also want to understand from various sectors of the society, with all professionals of all types who got exposure to this issue, they can come up with some sort of an appreciation and understanding, as well as help us to evolve some policy and field parameters that will help us. So that is basically the role we have. And we would like to hear you on what you have to say on the matter, so that we can move forward on these issues. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay. So to set the context, actually, I'll request Devinderji to put the perspective. Am I right in saying that stubble burning is a cause for Delhi's deteriorating AQI? Are we on the right track? Is this even a thought that should cross our minds? And how much can we blame the Punjab farmers or Haryana farmers to that effect?
Well, first of all, thank you very much. Mr. Chair, should I continue?
Yeah, please do. Please do. Yeah.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much, Aman, and thank you. It's also a pleasure for me to join this enlightened group and to share my perspective of when we talk of air pollution in New Delhi. Of course, as you said, stubble burning is the flavor. For several years now, we have seen the focus or the thrust or the way the media has been shaking and shouting and saying that farmers are the culprits and they should be put behind bars and so on and so forth. It gives us a feeling as if the farmers are drawing a sadistic pleasure out of burning the stubble that they have. I find most people, including senior people in the government, have no idea about how farming or harvesting is being done in this part of the world, and so it is easy to draw conclusions and say that farmer is the culprit in this particular case. First, let's look into a report that has come out yesterday from India Today. They did a survey of last 5 years, and found out that the peak pollution period in New Delhi was from the second half of December to the first week of January. And they have worked it out looking at the entire data of pollution and the flow of stubble pollution and so on. And they have reached this conclusion that the peak is arrived at in the second half of December. And I think that should set this, first of all, this entire trend or focus that it is the farmers who are to be blamed. Now, when I look at farmers and the way they are being hammered all these years, I think we miss to understand, or we fail to understand, a couple of realities that I think should be first lay the foundation for any discussion on stubble burning and the pollution that it causes to New Delhi and so on. Stubble burning, when I was a young journalist and I used to travel in the agriculture belt of Punjab and Haryana, stubble burning was not happening at that particular time. This reason was that we were into manual harvesting of the crop, and manual harvesting would mean that you cut the crop or the stubble right at the bottom, and then you can take or manage that particular stubble. Now, with the advent of combine harvesters, that is where the problem began. For quite some time, I continued saying that it is the combine harvester. It is a problem created by a technology. And I have always this impression that it is a technology which should be asked to address that particular issue. And first of all, for several I would say years, we didn't even notice that combine harvester was the main reason. But eventually, people did start to say, and we did talk about how technology has pushed in this kind of a problem. Now, when the combine harvester moves into the fields, first thing it does is it chops off the spike of the paddy crop and leaves the stubble there. And this is something which carries a small element of silica. It can't be fed to the cattle. Cattle don't like it, and so the farmer has to find a way to manage this, because he has to harvest the crop and market the crop, and then of course prepare the land for the sowing for the next wheat crop. And that has given him a window of about 2 weeks to 3 weeks. That is the maximum that he has. So he has to finish all these operations, and of course you will all agree the best is to put a fire to the stubble that he has. Incidentally, this was also a recommendation of Punjab Agriculture University several years back. That is what they advocated, and that is what they advised the farmers to do. And farmers went on doing that because part of the package of practices that the university also promoted, the department also promoted or advocated. Now then, eventually it has now grown to such a big problem. We all know, we see the NASA satellite figures and so on. So everyone is up in arms saying it is the farmer who is to be blamed. For several years now, I have seen the focus first going to technology as the answer. So, you know, the machine came, Happy Seeder, and everyone thought that that is the answer to Punjab's problem. And when Happy Seeder came, I remember a story appeared in New York Times, which said that if 80% subsidy was to be given for this machine, the problem is addressed. And even at that time, the Delhi Chief Minister had spoken to me, and I had told him that this is not correct, and this some kind of a impression that is being created should be dispelled. And I'm glad it did not pick up in that kind of a focus or the attention for the government to push these machines. But subsequently, these machines were pushed up at a subsidy, 50% for the individual farmers and 80% if it is bought in, cooperatives and so on. And anyway, there are about 13,000 Happy Seeder machines in Punjab today. And then, of course, Happy Seeder was followed by several other machines. It could be Super Seeder, Smart Seeder, and then there are a package of 5 machines. Of course, we need a high HP tractor also to operate it, and so on and so forth. And today, the figures that are being given to us is that Punjab has 1.37 lakh machines to take care of stubble burning. 1.37 lakh machines. And at the rate that we are going, this would cover, let's say 24 hectares. Each machine would cover 24 hectares. And somebody, I think one of the government ministers has said that we aim to provide each hectare with 1 machines in the years to come. Now, in Punjab, paddy is grown in about 32 lakh hectares. And also we should know that Punjab being one of those high productive areas for paddy. This year, the paddy productivity is roughly touching 8 quintals per hectare. And I think that will tell us that Punjab also, in addition, produces about 200 lakh tons of paddy stubble. Now, 200 lakh ton is a huge, huge surplus. I'm sure we'd all agree. It's a huge volume. No government or no private sector can take care of such a huge volume, despite pushing in all the machines for biofuels and, not only machines, but also putting up plants for biofuels and for pellets and so on and so forth. I would say not more than 10 to 15% of the stubble has been taken care of. The emphasis or the government push, of course, is to force the farmers to stop burning. And whereas the chief ministers, the previous chief minister, Captain Amarinder Singh, and followed by this chief minister, Mr. Bhagwant Mann, both have been saying that the best way forward is to provide farmers with an incentive, a small incentive, so that he can take care of the stubble in situ. In situ would mean, you either plow it back or you do mulching or whatever, using your family labor or Manrega or the machines and so on and so forth. Give them an incentive, because we all know farm income is at the lowest ebb today. I think at the bottom of the pyramid. The latest statistics tell us that the National Situational Assessment for Agriculture Household figure tells us that the average income of a farming family is 10,200 rupees per month in this country. And I think this should tell us at this low level of income, all that the farmers are expecting is that if you give them a small incentive, and I think that should be prior to the process of harvesting, or when the harvesting begins, let's say in the month of August, give them an incentive. That's what the farmers are demanding. Give us an incentive and we will take care of it. To me, or to my understanding, this is the best alternative. But I think in an economy which is dependent upon the new liberal kind of economics, which is based on GDP growth and so on. We excel, or we are happy selling more machines and not realizing that at one time it could be a bigger problem. I have been saying, and I say very loudly, that Punjab is soon going to turn into a junkyard for machines. These machines are being used for only 3 weeks at maximum. These machines are lying idle in the crop field for the rest of the year. And the way, if we have to give one machine per hectare, oh God, you will see Punjab will have a serious problems on hand in the years to come, and no decomposer can take care of that problem. And we have seen also when the decomposer was pushed, it was pushed blindly without even realizing whether it will work in Punjab's atmosphere or not. And several studies over the years has shown that it was a failure. I think that we need to put a lid on this particular issue of decomposer now. So what is left now to do is two primarily activities. One is to continue with the way we believe that the machines will take care of it, or the second, to involve the farmers to take care of the stubble. Now, that's an option that I think the policymakers have to take a decision on. And I think it is very important because already Punjab sees that most of the machines that were pushed actually are now becoming redundant. Farmers don't use those machines. And if you remember, when I started saying that combine harvester was the culprit, and when the euphoria erupted, then of course there was a pressure to bring in something called as SMS technology to the combine harvester, which means it will chop off from the base of the plant and then will spread and so on. But even that would require a kind of a additional money that the charges that the farmers would have to pay. The result today is out of the 13,000 combined harvester machines in Punjab, roughly about 6,000 have the SMS machines. But the fact is that farmers don't want those SMS equipment to be used for, because A, it takes more diesel, and B, the cost goes up. So I think the point is farmers would like to do it as cheap as possible and as quickly as possible. And let me also make it clear, you can go on blaming farmers, whosoever wants to do it. I'm talking of the media anchors especially. But the fact of the matter is it is the farmer's family which suffers. And farmer knows that it is harmful. Farmers knows what harm it does to the environment, what harm it does to the human health, and so on and so forth. I've seen at many places farmers have tablets in their pocket or in their kurta pockets when they are burning the crop, and soon they will take a medicine because they know it is harmful for their health. The point is, yes, it is a combined problem. It is a society's problem, and society must learn to stand with the farmers. Just pointing a finger to the farmers, blaming him for this kind of a crisis that has erupted is not fair. And I think in the months or years to come, it will not be standing in a good stead. But also at the same time, let me assure you, if the government agrees to provide an incentive of 2,500 rupees per acre, as Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann has asked for, and his government and the Delhi government had both said that they will be together providing 1,000 rupees out of it, and they expect the center to provide 1,500 rupees per acre. And if that happens, if we decide that, yes, we will do it today and we want the problem to go away tomorrow, let me assure you, if we handle it properly, there will be no stubble burning next year. So it is our choice. If we want to depend upon machines, please go on doing it. I'm not against machines, but all I'm saying is we have to have a kind of a mix where we listen to the farmers, let them manage the crop, whatever they need, whether they need machines, whether they need the plants or the biofuel plants and so on. We will provide that. The government should provide that. And then leave it to the farmers to manage. But I think filing FIRs or putting a red entry into the revenue records is not the way forward. Thank you.
Quite a weighted perspective that has come through. Thanks, Davinderji. I'm sure many of us have some inputs that they will give, but we've got a small request from Sunita ji, who's just joined from. She has to leave. I think she has a clash with another meeting. Sunita ji, she is the head of sustainability in Mahindra Life Developers. And taking a cue from Davinderji as what he has just said, that we need a humane approach and it has to be worked together. We need a collaborative approach. From your perspective, Sunita ji, from the corporate perspective, what do you wish to say on this?
So I head sustainability for a developer, and we are into real estate development, and that is the other culprit for air pollution. But I mean, there are several perspectives, several blames that happen in the media, and incomplete reporting is what I would incomplete understanding and incomplete reporting is what I feel is happening. See, this is a scientific area. My PhD is in air pollution, and I find it very difficult to explain, even if you try and explain simplistically, because it is complicated. It is about, understanding the meteorology of a particular area and why it is happening in winter, why certain conditions make it amenable, what we can do during those conditions, and what approaches should be taken. And it has to be done in a very holistic fashion. So first and foremost thing, from a developer perspective, the construction activities have to be severely monitored, and the monitoring cannot happen at one location of the construction site. It has to be in the downwind direction. So wind direction is very important, and it also has to be in areas where workers are working, as well as where habitation exists. So if you have a building that is already completed in which people are staying, then at the nose level, you will need to install the monitor. So it's not just one monitor and you put a smog gun in front of it. And, developers do that. They put the water sprinkling smog gun in front of the monitor and the monitor shows. So it's not about one monitor that is installed per location. It has to be more than one monitor. It has to be an online monitor. And it is okay to have a lower quality calibrated monitor. Calibrated monitor means that it has to be in line with the A grade monitors, calibrated to the degree of a A grade monitor, but to give an online live report of what's happening at that location, on the basis of which it can be determined whether a particular construction site needs activities should be stopped or not. There are blanket bans that happen on, even if measures are taken. So there are various measures that a developer has to take. It is about sprinkling of, using waste water, treated wastewater, of course, to bring down the dust. Then there are smoke guns. Then there are covering of various materials that are there. When you do stone crushing activity or activity that generates dust, ensure that you have water, and the barrications, how high the barrication should be. Wheel washing, and that's one big culprit that is often not understood even by authorities. So what happens is that if you have more than one entry, you need to ensure that wheel washing happens at both the exits, entries, or you have to restrict the exit and entry only at one location. So monitoring and doing wheel washing at both. If you have 3 exits and 3 exits where trucks are going in and out, because what it does is that if there are sudden rains or if there is muck at the site because of the sprinkling, the truck actually carries the particulate matter into onto the roads, and it then becomes an additional responsibility of the authorities to basically clean the roads, and this definitely needs to be avoided. So there are various measures that have to be taken, and these measures have to be monitored, and these monitors, like big industries, have come online through the CPCB central portal. Local authorities also need to be centrally able to put all monitoring of all construction sites, or even doing physical monitoring of construction activities, to ensure that air pollution from construction activities are curtailed. So while agricultural activities are blamed, the contribution of construction is to the tune of 20 to 25%, I would say. There are serious source apportionment studies that need to be done. And of course, vehicles contribute to 17 to 18% of pollution. And it is not just dust. It is not just dust that is the culprit. There is diesel. There are diesel generators. There is also diesel vehicles, and diesel vehicles also, the pollution under control should be definitely measured, monitored, and to look at various measures of moving away from diesel, decarbonizing, at the same time moving away to cleaner fuels and electric based equipment for construction sites is the way to be. So these are practical measures for implementation, not just in NCR, but throughout India now. Pune has a regulation, and BMC has a regulation where strong monitoring is happening, and construction activities are under the scanner for even shutting down the construction activity, because the community angle and the community awareness of what air we are breathing is completely pushing developers to take developers and regulators, of course, to take the right approach. Having said that, the humane approach is actually for us as residents, or as community members, to think about our own lifestyle for environment. While it is very easy to say, the developer did it, the farmer did it, or the other person did it, it's not my vehicle or something, but it is our choices and the houses we buy and the food we eat that has got us into this situation. Okay, so it is about our own lifestyle. It is about what kind of choices we make about our food, about our clothing, about our living, about our commuting, that has deteriorated the air quality, and it is going to deteriorate further. And I'll tell you why. And it is completely coming from air quality dispersion capability, or what is called as the carrying capacity. So every region has a carrying capacity which varies temporally, right? Temporally in time. So day it will be different, evening it will be different. Seasonal variations are also there. This carrying capacity has been severely compromised in NCR. It has got severely compromised in Bombay, in spite of having coastal sea breeze dispersion. So this compromise which has happened is because of extensive urbanization and extensive activities that are happening in a particular airshed. Typically, these airsheds used to cleanse and get cleansed naturally. And because we have removed trees from the urban equation, we have removed water bodies from the urban equation, it is worsening the air quality dramatically and drastically, and this is going to increase further as we increase the FSI of urban development. And urban development and agri development, as they come at loggerheads, and I'm staying at a location in Hinsawadi where farming and farm burning and urban development is happening, these episodes of air pollution will increase, and you add another layer to it of garbage waste burning. So our responsibility as citizens is very, very important in the entire dialogue. It is we whose waste get burnt. It is our food that the farmer creates, and he's burning that. So getting them to improve, are we willing to pay the price for a farmer that has generated it in a way that no stubble burning happens? Are we willing to change the way we travel? Are we willing to work with the regulators and the government policymakers for transportation systems and being able to live in places which are more amenable to sustainable living? So these are some of the questions that we all have to answer as we debate endlessly about air pollution. So what we have done to air is what we have done to water. Water is a centralized resource, and we can't drink without the AquaGuard, which has become a norm. So we have taken common water and we have made it into uncommon, which we are paying through the nose, which we don't even realize. We have centralized the pumping. We have centralized, the purification happens at our home level, and we don't even, record the total cost of ownership of purification of water, pumps, cleaning, and the chemicals that we put in our water at our society level. We are doing the same with our air. We are now going to buy purifiers. People in Delhi already have purifiers and humidifiers and all the things. So we have taken commons and we have destroyed the commons. And we are now in a situation where we are trying to save ourselves. So these are some of the points that come to my mind. We are all in it, and it's going to get worse is what my thought process is, unless we are all willing to change or shift the way we are thinking about urbanization and the way we develop. So these are few of my comments. I hope they were thought-provoking and we are able to do something about some of these points that I have raised. I'll hold on and listen. I may not be able to keep my screen on. Thanks, Aman, for the opportunity.
Thanks, man. Thanks, man. That's the perspective. In fact, I had forgotten that Bombay is also going through the same situation that NCR is. But NCR, being NCR, gets the prime coverage always. You've given us a very nice perspective. And before you, Devendraji was with us. I'll request the chair now to encapsulate and give his thoughts on this.
Yeah, Mahindra seems to be a very aware organization, because there are very few construction organizations that will think about it, let alone do anything about it. And there, although we got lots of manuals, for example, on storage of dust, storage of soil, storage of the construction material, they are left in the open. The trucks keep flying, as you say, without getting their wheels washed in. And construction in general has become a contractor's play. More or less, they cut corners wherever possible, to the extent of sacrificing safety, security, as well as pollution. So I think your ideas are very, very important, especially when you said that they account for 25% of pollution comes because of civil construction. And as we know, urbanization in the next 10, 20 years is going to be at the peak in our country till 2050. There's going to be massive growth in urbanization in our country. And we expect this problem may grow further. If Farali is sorted out, then this might be the next Farali, as you say, and as we see in the general practices in construction area. And the new urban ideas to cut costs and to be I mean, have easier, natural sort of air, water, cleanliness, etc. The concepts of TOD that is coming in, transit-oriented development, to minimize the cost of fuel. Fuel also adds to pollution in the air. So I don't know to what extent, with our, as you said, discipline within the contractors, within the supervision. For example, PWD, we have seen very, very deeply. PWD is one of the worst construction organizers that we have seen. And they don't do anything scientific. They leave it to the contractors. There's no supervision. And these sort of things are happening. So if Farali is sorted out, I think this might turn out, as you say, to be the next big polluter. And it's a high time that we take care of this aspect. And it's nice of you at this stage to point out early enough that this should not be ignored. I think that's a very good contribution that you have made to our understanding and comprehension. And I think that should be kept in mind. Yeah, we will now request the next speaker to help us understand the issue. Aman, are we okay? Are we on track?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Dr. Hiralalji.
Yeah, now we are going to present a doyen of an administrator who single-handedly introduced new concepts in planning and implementation, and his own concept of a model. We have been having model villages right from Mahatma Gandhi or earlier days. What is a good village? But then he's the one who's taken the lead, the whole country, I may say, to evolve some parameters for what should be a sort of ideal village, a model gaon, in terms of sustainability, in terms of efficiency, in terms of low polluting, in terms of better welfare to the residents, in terms of better appreciation of their aspirations of the people who live in the village. And he's from our service. Yes, I compliment him. He's done a very thorough and a good job. And I am hoping that one day or the other, this concept will catch on. And then if the further urbanization stops with growth in model villages, then that will be one of the biggest contributions that we would have made to stop pollution and deep urbanization, of course, as we see, harmful from the point of view of conservation, in terms of wastage, in terms of excessive tinkering with natural water, natural soil, natural themes that have occurred in the urban systems. So can we invite Dr. Hiralal to present us his experiences and tell us how he can contribute to this topic that we are now discussing.
But at the risk of sounding a devil's advocate, I've actually been moved by what Devendraji brought in, of the perspective that policymakers should take care about giving them some incentives. So Hiralalji, when you're speaking, I think we'll be eager to listen how you can marry the two thoughts.
Okay, so thank you for inviting me, and I would like to welcome all my speaker fellows who are present in this online event. So I will start with my work which I have done on the pollution. I have done many things, but I have worked 4 things to control the pollution in district Bada. I started plastic free Bada. In Hindi, plastic mukt Bada or Jhola yukt Bada. That was a slogan. Plastic. So I did many activity and many actions to replace the plastic, because plastic is killing Jal, Jangal, Jameen. All 3 supports with the help of which we are surviving. So plastic, I treat plastic one of the most biggest enemy of the Jal, Jangal, Jameen. So in August 2010, I started this campaign, and it was a successful campaign led by the public, not led by the district magistrate or by the government. One thing that was against to reduce or to arrest the pollution. One thing, I in Hindi, climatic change is the English. To make it understand in Hindi, Jalavayu, climatic, जलवायु परिवर्तन. ऐसे जल में परिवर्तन रोक दीजिए, वायु में परिवर्तन रोक दीजिए, तो व्हाट विल हैपन, यू आर गोइंग टू अरेस्ट द क्लाइमेटिक चेंज. पर इन हिंदी में मैं ऐसा समझाता हूँ, जल में परिवर्तन को, जलवायु परिवर्तन, जल में परिवर्तन रोकना है और वायु में परिवर्तन रोकना है. तो व्हाट आई टुक स्टेप्स that I am explaining. First step I took to make plastic free life. How people can change his habits or styles to live a plastic free life. Like at 40, 30 years back, we used to live without plastic. One thing. Second, my campaign was how to arrest the jal parivartan, how to check the jal parivartan. So I launched a campaign, water conservation, and in 1.5 years, I raised the water table by 1.34 centimeter, meaning thereby ki parivartan, change. Which was going downside, I raised the table upside. So I checked the parivartan. I arrested the parivartan. In Hindi, I am telling. Second thing, Vayu parivartan. What I did, I changed the concept of the tree plantation. We have a scheme from the government of India, state government, that every year in June, July, we did plantation campaign. So plantation campaign, I changed the name, tree survival campaign. In place of tree plantation, I changed the name, tree survival campaign. Planting tree is not the complete story. Taking care of and ensuring the survival of the tree after plantation is the story. So tree survival campaign I launched in innovative way to establish oxygen factory. The oxygen factory is nothing but the trees. That way I used to tell my message, my audience said. Third idea which I implemented, I created a oxygen bar in oxygen park. I created a oxygen park where we planted the trees which gives more and more oxygen, and oxygen bar sitting inside that trees are in between the trees like a bar to take the oxygen more and fresh oxygen. So oxygen bar in oxygen park, one idea I created and I implemented on the ground. Water conservation, second, tree survival, third, and plastic removal, four. All four together is the easiest implementable cost-effective solution which I evolved in Bada, and that I am implementing and trying to implement in schools, in the masses. Every day I used to go and convince. How I did that? I did with the public participation, by winning the trust of the masses, and I did all four activities in Bada, not in the leadership of the government or DM or officials. It was done in the leadership of the public. So same thing, by winning the trust of the public, we can implement. So our issue is that how to convince the people. We are talking about the crop residue burning, staple burning, and we are not talking about the pataka. We are not talking about the pataka, which all the learned professors, IS officers, big bosses done during the Deepavali. And they did not get the enjoyment, they get the element. But they are thinking I am getting the enjoyment. If the learned and wise men are doing this thing sitting in Bombay, Lucknow and Delhi, why you are talking alone about the crop residue and staple burning? What is the sense? So please start this thing from yourself, like Mahatma Gandhi principles, that we will not do anything which will contribute in any way to pollution increment. So that is my philosophy, and for that we need awareness, we need to convince the people, we need policy, we need funding, we need many things. But as per my own experience, which I did in the Banda by 4 activities together is the best solution to fight the climatic change, and it is a evolved solution. I am trying to create a model in Lucknow, and I have given a Nara in Hindi, clubbing all 4 activities together. Plastic मुक्त लखनऊ, प्लास्टिक मुक्त लखनऊ और पेड़ पानी युक्त लखनऊ. युक्त माने विथ, more and more. Plastic युक्त लखनऊ, पेड़ पानी मुक्त लखनऊ. Likewise, we have taken Kirorimal College with the help of a professor who is engaged with us, Professor Rupinder Oberoi. He is very innovative professor. So Kirorimal प्लास्टिक मुक्त KMC और पेड़ पानी युक्त KMC. लाइकवाइज प्लास्टिक मुक्त स्टूडेंट, प्लास्टिक मुक्त आदमी, प्लास्टिक मुक्त कार्यालय, प्लास्टिक मुक्त घर, plastic free everything. So this basic concept we will have to insert in the mind, in the thought, in the blood of each and every citizen of India. Then and only then we can get the real solution. And this I have done for water, like pollution problem, water crisis problem. There are many problems. So if problem is the mass, if the problem is with the masses, solution is not with the government or with the others. It is with this solution is also with the each and every citizen. This philosophy of the governance has brought many good results with me, and I work for this. Thank you.
Shukriya, sir. Thank you very much for this perspective. I believe this far-reaching. I've seen you on ground, sir. मैं आपको मिला था बांदा में 2019. 90% हमने मतदान की वो कैंपेन में काम किया है साथ में. So I've seen you on the ground. That's why I said it's we need people who walk the talk and shun the rhetoric. So, sir, with your permission, Dipti sir, we have heard Devinder ji also saying that technology at times becomes a problem.
Yes.
And we've seen how everyone is agreeing on the fact, Devinder ji, Sunita ji, and Dr. Hiralal, that the change will start with us. And how can we best approach that and address that? Before we go forward, I like to bring in, let's bring in Raj Kapoor now. So he'll give us a technology perspective. He is the author of the Green Chain Protocol. When we say that technology can actually help alleviate these problems and give a sense of a semblance of a solution. So he is a global keynote speaker. Over to you, Raj. With your permission, sir.
Yeah, I'm you're shifting from the pits of the soil,
yes,
to the heights of technology, because this all will be in the air, and what you heard now till now was all on the ground. So I think we'll get a very good perspective from.
So the essence is, let's make a bridge now. So
yeah.
as I said at the start, that I'm actually confused. People ask me, and the propensity from all of us is to blame the farmer. Now we've seen from 3 speakers right now that it is not enough and it is not correct. we should not be doing that. We should understand their sense also. But at the end of the day, people who come back to me, they say, "वो सब ठीक है," but the actual point is, it is hazardous. 10 days the schools were closed, and even today the schools were opened, and still the AQI in Delhi is 381. And it's not easy to breathe. So we do have Dr. Sarika with us, who's an LGS specialist, who will get us that perspective, how it impacts the health.
People
But
have not,
let's get Raj in.
people have not evaluated also the cost of loss of life days.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
But
what.
to lose 7 to 10 years of life, if on average about 10 to 20 crore people suffer, then what is the loss to the whole community, to the country, to humanity? This has not been monetized at any time in the past. So let's get the high-tech sort of this issue also. Please, sir.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks and welcome. And thanks for having me in the panel. A wonderful panel, wonderful suggestions, wonderful conversations. Model Village is something which I'm thinking very closely on having it in Goa as well. I by the way, I live in Goa, so it's one of the least polluted places. So I can understand what everybody else is going through. But coming back to where technology plays the major role, well, it can only play a major role when the ground realities are taken care of to some extent, or at least addressed. But technology does play a role from a preventive perspective. And I'll give you a simple thing. I'll give you a real live example. I'm not going to give you some rhetoric. I'll give you something which I've been working very closely over the last few years in 3 major cities in China, of all the places: Hangzhou, Chengdu, and Shanghai. Now, these are among the top 10 most polluted cities. I mean, now India is taking over a lot more. That's not a great thing. But these 3, what have we done there? We've used a very simple technology. We've used blockchain with artificial intelligence, and the results have been really good. I'll just share a few of my experiences there. We can, of course, and that's because those are very highly polluted manufacturing. They have affluence.
We're losing you, sir, Raj. Rajji, we can't hear you.
Last we had shared our RE100 study.
But they have other.
Can we?
Am I audible now?
Oh yeah, now it's better. Yeah. Yeah, please go ahead. You can hear.
All right. All right. Maybe you'll just have to make do with my photograph. Network maybe a little weak here. So, yeah, thanks. I'll just the green chain blockchain, the green chain protocol implemented in India, but it hasn't been done yet, although we've submitted several documents to the government. But nonetheless, well, we've actually put together the global network mobile air sensor qualities, which we are actually monitoring through simple mobile phones, is one of the key things we are doing. With Xiaomi is doing it there. We published the statistics. The missing link today we found was the air quality model. Is the high density, low cost sensor network. It's a very simple solution which we've deployed. Very, very low cost. When I say low cost, it's cheaper than a burger in McDonald's. And that's what we've done. We've actually embedded it in all these smartphones, and that's it. We are using smart contracts, and this enables real-time monitoring, automated responsible, and these contracts deployed on a blockchain network play a very critical role in actually checking air pollution, because they offer real-time data integration, because they're integrating with the IoT sensors and all the data sources, continuously gathering and analyzing air quality information. Now, this is something which we can do very easily right here in India. I really don't understand why we haven't even considered it, but I think the time will come now. These real-time data feeds into the blockchain, this creates completely immutable records of the pollution levels. Now, when pollution levels exceed acceptable limits, these smart contracts, they trigger alerts and notification to relevant parties like environmental agencies and the public as well. What happens then? The awareness and response then can be done real time. These contracts are also programmed actually to enforce regulatory standards. Now, that's also very critical, because without that, we have no framework. If a factory, for example, or a vehicle emissions exceed permissible levels, this contract can initiate penalties or even shut down operations till the compliance is restored. This is being done real time in these cities. Also, what they've done there to monetize this, or to make it more incentivized, I would rather say, these businesses now earn tokens through smart contracts for adopting eco-friendly practices. This encourages, in my opinion, reduction of emissions, cleaner, sustainable activities, etc. And we also see that smart contracts on the blockchain facilitate a very transparent creation of trading of emission credits, allowing these entities to offset their pollution by investing in environmental friendly projects. With having said that, there has been an uptick in 18% of investment in environmentally friendly projects in these cities over the last 6 months. Now you add to this, finally, add the smart contracts with good traffic management systems, where we've actually optimized traffic flow, reducing vehicle emission and minimizing congestion. That's also working all together, bringing in all stakeholders to manage, pollution and air pollution from all sides, not just from one aspect. We are also using, is to engage the public in efforts to combat poor quality air. I made an app platform there, basically, that allows individuals also to access real-time air quality data and participate in initiatives to reduce pollution. This also creates a sense of collective responsibility and encourages more people to adopt eco-friendly practices. I would say one of the largest citizen scientist projects happening there. However, I will also, at the end of it, say blockchain isn't any silver bullet, but it's a step in mitigating mankind's largest problem right now. I don't think any of us wish our children to inherit a world which is moving towards self-destruction, and we can see that happening. So what is stopping us from leveraging technology? Technology is not going to solve all problems, but it actually can address very critical ones. And I think these 3 cities have shown how this can actually take place. It is not exactly very difficult to implement. A small sensor, a blockchain application, and I think in a few days, we've got everything ready to go. We have the resources, we have the talent, we have a solution to some extent mitigate these problems. All we need now is a political will to take that forward. That's all from my side, guys. Thank you. Sorry, my network is not so good.
Thanks, Raj. I believe, sir, he's given us a complete mechanism to audit whatever we are saying that we'll do. Over to you,
Yes.
Yeah, it's a very important concept for the present day planners to even understand and implement the concept. But I think it's a very, very sensible and very, very important and urgent need of the hour, because in case we have this type of technological audits, I think this would go a long way in stopping much of the damage that's being done in the present as well as in the future. I think that's a great contribution.
sir.
And
While we are speaking, sorry, please continue, sir.
It's sad to say that China says yes, but India is not yet accepted it. I feel very sad for that. I'm a proud Indian and I want to do something for the nation, but I'm not getting an opportunity here.
Yeah, I think I hope that things should improve in the future. They can understand what exactly technology can do in this field. And let's hope things will improve as their understanding improves. Yeah, that's what we can hope for. Yeah.
So we can request Dr. Sarika now to come in, sir. So
Yeah.
she'll give us the perspective from as an health expert, and also the response that everyone is awaiting. What do the political dispensations speak about it? What rule did they take? Over to you, Dr. Sarika.
Hey, thank you, Aman, for having me here. I'm delighted to be here, and the kind of discussion is very informative and learning a lot of things. And I wear 3 hats. One, I'm a doctor and a ENT surgeon. I'm an allergy specialist, and I have a chain of clinics. And I have seen we speak about air pollution and the effect on its healthcare, but that is something that everybody knows. A recent study that's come out that says that living in NCR is like smoking 15 cigarettes a day, and you're reducing 10 years of your life. And there are various studies that say between 2 million to 7 million lives are lost every year in India because of poor air quality. And we lost, I think, unofficial figure, the official figure that we lost about 4 lakh people in COVID, and that was enough to stop the economy, have a complete lockdown, and somehow 2 million deaths, or even the conservative side, doesn't seem to bother anybody. And I'm very disheartened to see the central government and the various state governments do not take air pollution seriously. I mean, it's something that's affecting not only you, even the unborn child. The placenta of a mother has now got particulate matter 2.5. And if that doesn't scare you, I don't know what will. And other than being a doctor, I am also an activist, an environmental activist. I'm a founder member of Aravali Bachao. I'm a part of Warrior Moms. And on the ground, I genuinely believe that there are two sets of things. One is the things we can do as individuals, and then there are things that need to be done at the government level. And the third and most important, all the rules that exist need to be implemented without fear and favor, without corruption being a part of that. And because you will see across, the various studies that say that industrial pollution is responsible for 45% of air pollution. How much work is being done on that? How much is it being enforced? Namami Gange, I remember when that project came up, all the units in UP which were putting their the effluents into the Ganga river and the Yamuna river, they continue to do so even today. It's just that पहले वो 50,000 रुपए देते थे, अब वो 5 लाख रुपए रिश्वत देते हैं. The quality of water did not improve. The enforcement of the laws did not get better. It's just the scale of corruption went up, and that is very unfortunate for citizens. And I feel disheartened that, year after year, you just keep on making promises. At the COP20 summit, we went and said we are going to build a green corridor from Panipat to Porbandar to Panipat, and our forest cover is falling. Yeah, I live in Haryana, where we have the lowest forest cover in the country, which is 3.6%. And the forest cover has fallen over the last 10 years from 5.8% to 3.6%. So, of course, there are multiple factors. There is one, the factor of human greed. We continue to, abuse our natural resources. Despite the Supreme Court telling you that your 29 Aravali hills have disappeared over successive governments, right under the nose. And I would like to say that it's not under the nose, it's because of their complicity in the corruption that has led to where we are today. And I sound very harsh and I sound very upset because I feel sad that my kids will probably have to leave the country because this is not the kind of air quality I want them to have. My brother is settled in Canada and his air quality there is less than 30. And here when we have 150, 200, we call it a good air day. We say, oh my God, look, the skies are so blue, and we all take pictures of the sky. And we are, I get trolled incessantly when I speak about pollution, because the moment I talk about pollution, if I talk about crackers, they say, what about parali? When I say, we need to reduce the parali burning, they say, what about vehicles? When I say, we need to move to e-vehicles, they say, what about? So the whataboutery doesn't stop. Unfortunately, as Indians, we do not take responsibility to say, it's my job, what can I do? As an individual, what have I done? I've been planting trees in the limited space that I have in the urban setup. I've tried to make a mini forest outside my clinic. In about 30, 40 trees I've grown from seeds in the last 4-5 years. And now it's like a mini forest where I have birds and even cats and all sorts of animals started to come there. And I wish everybody would do it in whatever space they have. In my balconies, I'm growing fruits and vegetables, in abundance. And I can only show it to my children and I can, in my sphere of influence. But this should be something that bothers each Indian as a whole. In my apartment building of 270 apartments, we've created waste management at source. We segregate, we collect 2 bin 1 bag. We've ensured that, all of our wet waste becomes compost. All of our dry waste is segregated and recycled, and very little goes to the landfill. I tried to reach out to the municipal corporation, Gurgaon. I reached out to the DC. I reached out to the MLAs in Gurgaon. Unfortunately, I even met the CEO of Eco Green Company, so that I showed them this model. I said, see, this is what I'm doing in a small community, and the same thing is very easily replicable in the 57 sectors that we have in Gurgaon. It'll cost so little money. But because setting up a unit and running it just costs about 5 to 7 lakhs of investment, for the unit and about 40,000-50,000 rupees per month. That's nothing for a city that spends 2,500 crores a year on the MCG. That's the budget of MCG that we have in Gurgaon. That's 7 crores a day. So we can easily, ensure that our solid waste management is done properly. But unfortunately, all the wisdom and all our activism gets nothing translated into the ground because the government makes policies which are useless. And they know that these policies are useless, but they continue to abuse their position of power and brute majority and the end result is that citizens suffer. So, and then, then of course, the last bit is that I am a Aam Aadmi Party. I work with AAP and I am the state president of Aam Aadmi Party Haryana for the doctors wing, and I can enumerate the 10 points that the Delhi government has done to improve the air quality, and it has shown results. The AQI has fallen in Gurgaon in Delhi over the last 5 to 6 years, year on year, month on month, when you compare it with the previous years. And nobody seems to give them a compliment for that, neither the citizens nor the government, and certainly not the media. So I really wish that the Indian government, the center and state, would put their politics aside, because after your elections are done, politics has no role in governance. When you become the prime minister, you're the prime minister of the entire country. When you become a chief minister, you're the chief minister of the entire state. And at that time, you should have the best interests of your people. Otherwise, it's useless and you're a disgrace to your position. So if the Delhi government is increasing the green cover, if the Delhi government has increased the forest cover, the green cover and forest cover by more than 20 square kilometers, they are planting more than 1 lakh trees and several thousand shrubs every year, year on year for the last many years. I think that is something that all of us collectively, irrespective of our political affiliation, must applaud, so that Haryana, Punjab and every other state can also start doing the same. Because the moment I talk about politics, they say, what about Delhi? What about Punjab? Why don't we just talk about the entire North India, where 60 crore people suffer the same bad air quality year on year, year on year? If we can leave our whataboutery and start walking the talk, doing small things. If Indore can do it, and if all the other cities in India have not done it, I think it is a shame to all the municipal corporations across the country. You have a model that is replicable and you're still not doing it. It just shows that air quality doesn't mean a fig to any of you. So, I mean, all of us as activists are so passionate about air pollution and better air. But the fact is that you're also already thinking about sending your children abroad because you see that in the near future, there is no improvement going to happen. You cannot imagine that in the next 5 years, the air quality in India will become better unless there is a genuine and a scientific approach to air pollution from the top down through all the governments. And I don't see that happening in the near future. And that's why I'm really, really disheartened. And I'm sorry if I sound upset, because as a doctor and as a mother and as a politician, I feel that we have failed our next generation.
Quite loaded, sir.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dr. Sarika ji, for a very nice perspective. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we find that a lot needs to be done not only at the government level, but also at the people-to-people level. And the expectations of the public citizen is that he should have air to breathe and air to live his normal life. And if the doctors are also giving away their hopes, then it means this is a matter of serious concern. Of course, you added a bit of politics also to your reply, and of course that stands to statistics. In case definitely AQI has gone down, because last year we could see earlier is AQI going beyond 500, 600, sometimes maybe 700, and there has been a major element of control this year. We can't say elimination. There has been a reduction. But I wish much more stringent measures could be brought in place. And we can't go on cursing people and cursing politics, but then the citizenry has to be made aware and awake to this, and how they can contribute to it. I think that should be our approach at this stage. Yeah. Thank you.
So we'll invite Smita ji. We have been waiting for her for quite some long. She's now got the she's coming after most of us have spoken. So I believe her perspectives can be much more measured. Yeah, Dr.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, thank you. As the role of a consultant, I think it is our job to make sense of the conversations. And unfortunately, you know, what I'm witnessing in the panel today is what we've been witnessing in the country. And that's the reason why here, because there are a lot of people who will present fantastic solutions which are not implemented. There will be blame gaming, of course. That's part and parcel of what we do. But so I've been a consultant. Quick introduction about myself. I've been a consultant, and I was earlier in the for-profit sector, and then I transitioned to the not-for-profit sector, the social impact, and the primary reason why I transitioned was that the problems that need to be solved in the development sector are far, far more complex than what. Thank you, Dr. Verma.
No worries.
So it's far more complex than what we have in the corporate sector. In the corporate sector, if you have to make a machinery or you have to put in a strategy for a distribution of a product, etc., are now solved problems. And to that extent, they are ready-made solutions. But in our sector, the problems are quite deep-rooted, and air pollution is another example of, you know, a deep-rooted problem, which is so complex that there's actually a pattern to it. And if you individually speak to any of the stakeholders, they are right in what they're doing. And which is the reason why they're doing it. As you started, I mean, you know, the farmers are very well aware of what these challenges are, but they're still going out and doing it. The governments are very well aware of the challenges that are being faced by the citizen and themselves. So they also live in the same city and work in the same city. So it's their children who are also getting impacted. So it's unfair to blame the policymakers. It's unfair to blame the farmers. It's unfair to blame any of the stakeholders, because we all understand as human beings that we have the right intention. So what's really going wrong? Why aren't we able to solve for it? And why do we need forums like this? And each and every single year, you know, there are more and more reports which just point out to data, or they point out to a better articulation of the impact of the issue, which is saying, oh, this can cost 10 years and 50 years and 100 years of your life. But really, there's nothing happening on the ground. So as a consultant, we always step back and say that why are things not happening if everyone has the right intentions? There's enough data in the system to prove it. I mean, we don't even need data for proving an air pollution problem today. There are enough solutions which are being presented by so many people on this panel and otherwise as well, saying that my solution works, don't do this, don't do technology, put, you know, in plastics, etc. And they're all very, very good solutions. So what's really happening is, in our perspective and in my own perspective, which I firmly believe, is that a systemic lens, systems thinking lens is actually missing. So there are point solutions, there are tactical solutions, oh, this technology works, oh, this feeder works, oh, this particular thing works, let's try this, without systemically looking at it in terms of what is the impact over a period of time. And when I say systems thinking, what do I mean by that? What I really mean is that this is not a solution. There is no single solution. If there was a single solution to things, it would have already been done. It's a system of solutions that need to come together, and they need to come together by a system of players. So it is not government's responsibility alone. We've already heard, it's not, you know, today private sector representation, thankfully Nita is here, you know, but it's always limited in forums like this. So what is really needed is that everything comes together. But then how do you come together? No one individual will have the capacity to deliver this problem solution or take this on. So if the expectation is that a government will change policies and do the implementation, it will not happen by themselves. They do not have that understanding, technical understanding. They will not have the machinery. They will not have the resources to go out and actually implement this. If you expect the farmers to just do it themselves, or civic society to come and tell them how to do it, it won't happen. There are financial incentives. It's lives at stake. It's money at stake. They will not do it. So when we say system solutions to a problem, we mean that we need to create incentives for each of these actors to act on their own without any carrot and sticks. So if you create incentives for the government machinery to work on its own, without blaming, without nudging, without anything, or if we create incentives for let's say in the case of stubble burning, farmers for this not to do, and we have created financial incentives, the idea is that systemically you create point solutions so that each of these actors act without any nudge, without any push, without any carrot, without any stick. They're incentivized to work on their own. There have been many, many solutions around the, again, I'm taking the example of a stubble burning, but it's the same problem there. In fact, actually, let me just completely digress from this and give you an example of how we solve for the games. I mean, because we're coming out of World Cup, so games and our performances in sports was something that 15 years back we were craving. Every Olympic Games, every Asian Games, the entire country would just keep hoping for medals without actually doing any action. And after the results will come, we will say, okay, we would have only 5 or 10. And suddenly, in a span of 4 to 5 years, we are going from a level of 10, 12 to hundreds. So what has really transcribed, what has actually happened in the background is that the hope is not there anymore, but there's action. And there's a collective action. So it's not just that the government has suddenly changed the sports policies because of which we are getting more medals. It's suddenly not that we have started discovering, fantastic talent, or suddenly the training institutes have come up to coach them, or suddenly financial incentives have come in and, now players are going for competing in Olympics. It doesn't work like that. We've created incentives at each systemic point for each actor to come in and collaborate and work on their own merit. So, for example, in this particular case, in air pollution, there needs to be systemic incentives for farmers to stop stubble burning. Farmers in Punjab did not start the third crop by their own initiative. It was policy-led. It was incentives which were given. It was stops that were given because there was a larger interest from the country to increase productivity of land, and that's why the third crop was introduced. And as Devenderji said, because the third crop was instituted, there were technology implementations were there, which made things faster, and in an enablement of 3 crops are there. But so I don't think at that point any wrong policy decisions were taken to start blaming policymakers to say that why did you introduce a third crop, or why did you do? There was reason and there was rationale which sort of done that. Now it is time for us to say that, okay, that has worked for its time, but it's no longer working for different reasons. So the question is to find those incentives so that each of the actors, each of the players in the ecosystems acts on its own incentive. So which means that there needs to be incentives built for farmers not to do this. Just by going and blaming them or providing them, I don't know if just providing them the money is the right solution. How long will it be sustainable? You'll provide them 2,500 rupees this year. What happens next year? You will provide them subsidized feeder machines. What will happen, etc. We don't know. These are not sustainable solutions. We need to find a way that the farmer himself gets up and actually does that. Similarly, we need to find incentives where there's collaboration between the different political parties or policy makers to come out and provide those incentives. So if those incentives if the solutions are really for the fact that, you provide the money and something happens, that may be the right solution. Or Mr. Raj Kapoor was giving out some of his own solutions. There has to be a systemic body to be able to evaluate these solutions, which needs to be a non-partisan body. Another example where, again, not to do with air pollution, where systemic changes have worked is in the payments, digital payments. Today in India, UPI, not just in India, in the world, UPI is a leader. Now, how did that change come about? Because there was a challenge on payments. There was a challenge on transparency on the payments. There was black money. There was a whole lot of symptoms that were there. But how was this solved? This was solved by an equal partnership of the government, of the private sector in London, of the civil society coming together and working solidly with accountability and transparency on an initiative called UPI. And they did that. It's not that the government changed the policy for payment. It's not that a private sector sort of put CSR money. It is not about one civil society or a non-profit said that, yes, I will work on this particular solution. And in that ecosystem, if you look at that journey of a UPI, there were several solutions that were offered, but there was one focused body, one entity, which was collectively looking at all these solutions, picking out what works when, right, etc. They were accountable for this. They were mandated for this. They were empowered to take those decisions, what needed to get done, etc. Everything was right for them to be effective. And they were accountable, and that's what the solutions are. So a systemic solution is what is needed for an air pollution, where all the 3 key stakeholder, which is the government, which is the society, and also the private sector. All need to come together, not out of the goodness of the heart, not just out of the goodness of heart, but also that their incentives are aligned. Government needs to have an incentive to give the power to this group, the way they had given it to a UPI, the way they had given it to Olympic, Gold Quest, organization. And these are just examples. But the idea is that you give out the power, make that body empowered to find these different solutions, do the implementation, have enough funding, have enough the power, and have the trust of the society to say that yes, you'll find us a solution and we'll adopt it. I think that is what I call as a systems change, which is entirely missing in this. And again, air pollution is just yet another example. As everyone said, today it is air pollution, tomorrow it will be water, it will be something else. This is a systemic thing that we need to solve for. Problems will keep coming. As I said, air pollution, the policies behind that were never intended to come to this level. I mean, who would do that? No government will do that. But it's just that we are in that situation today. These situations will keep coming in the future. But if we do not have a mechanism to solve for problems like this today or in the future, we'll keep having different forums. Today the agenda is air pollution. Tomorrow the agenda will be something else. I think that is what I wanted to say as a closing thought after hearing everyone.
Thanks. Before sir comes in, sir, I just want to put my thought here. To have a centralized, let's say, an entity which can influence a systemic change, wasn't the urban development or CPCB geared up to do the same? And as the ministry, is it such a novel thought today that we want everyone to work on shared values and speak about purpose? And if we have quality examples, as she just remarked about the medal tally increase and the UPI fintech make phenomenal success, why is it such a it's so pressing as problem? For example, even if we take agriculture, it's supposed to be one of the most premier subjects of all governance. In fact, it's part of the very manifesto. Even we are in election year now, and half of the election, wherever we've been and the study manifesto, agriculture, farm laws still have a bearing in that. So why is it this thing missing what Smita ji has just brought about? Why is it missing? Why is it why are we talking about it as a solution today? Why isn't it there? Over to you, sir, because you've been in the chair in the government.
Well, I think our panelists today have been able to take out thread by thread the issues as they arise and how they can or cannot be solved. We got solutions, at least attempted solutions, which have been available to us today. Either technology to be used better. Technology today is very cheap. It can be used, definitely, yes. To blame game between different governments and different states. Lack of money, of course, nobody has said it openly till now that there's a depth of money. There's no depth of money. If you want to prevent human life, if you want to increase welfare of the citizens, I think money should never be a constraint. I think this is the fundamental that everybody's life is precious. Saving life is government's mandate. You cannot allow people to die because of bad environment or bad living conditions. It just can't happen. It should be done by the government, but the government has shied or has not been able to find a solution so far. And of course, lastly, we had this systemic solution. The systemic solution is we need a problem-solving approach to the organization. The problem-solving approach can be, how do we run the Olympics in the world at the world level? It's just an autonomous organization with governments contributing. So can we create an autonomous, systemic approach to this whole thing? This is the new approach that we can think about. Of course, there are various other approaches, but then this appears to be.
So I'll interject again here. What I was saying was, is it a novel approach? Why hasn't it happened? Well, it seems to be something that it should have been there yesterday. So what are the thoughts?
As long as there are vested interests in the present system, present regime, as long as there are vested interests in present regime, things will not change. When the interests change, and interests are incentivized, then yes, definitely we can see a ray of hope. Otherwise, allowing government alone to do is not possible. People, of course, can't do anything on their own without resources and organizational capabilities. technologies, if they have to be used, they have to be absorbed, understood, implemented. 80% of government spending is there only in this construction and all these areas which create pollution. Making laws, rules, regulations is government job. Government can be an enabler, but then yes, there has to be, I think, some sort of a joint approach to countries' problems which go higher than party loyalties or party mandates or governmental mandates. Yeah.
To be fair, I mean, we don't have a government. I mean, I know you've been part of the government, but to be fair to the government, I don't think it is vested interests alone that has been projecting out. It's quite a media narrative. I don't think any part of the government does not want to solve for it. It is their own and their own children's lives that are getting impacted. So I don't think it is. It's more of a capacity issue. I do not think the government has the capacity or resources to solve a problem like this. In the case of UPI, an external expert was, brought in to be able to bring in this solution. It is only about the intent. And I think for even to get that intent right from a government perspective, again, a capacity and a mindset and a thinking. It is not easy to get 5 departments in a government to come together and agree on that. I would not term that as malintention. It is about the ability or the capability to bring it together to create an autonomous body
And that
whose
is why
point solution is to solve for this
That is why I
problem.
was focusing on a participatory organization without leaning on either the government or private sector or the funder or the beneficiary, whatever. The point is that we need to have a neutral third organization, which can, of course, the same amount of money that the government is losing and ameliorating the poor condition, the same money is given to an organization to come up with novel solutions, they probably will. It is possible to reach out to solutions if three heads go together. But the attempt has not been made. Government on its own is probably has no time, no interest, no inclination, no interest probably in this one. It will see it as a seasonal 15, 20, 30-day affair, then they'll say people will keep quiet. That's a short-sighted approach the government will normally take. They'll say, okay, let's give some more holidays, let days pass, and then we are okay.
Yeah, but sir, again, I would again sort of respectfully, have a different point of view here. Is that no, I don't think we can blame the Indian government. No government, because they run on taxpayers' money, will ever have the time or that space to be considering options like this.
Yes,
so systemically is something that you need an autonomous body, not just for air pollution. A system's capability, way of thinking needs to change in the government so that the problem, as you rightly said, is an enabler. An enabler means bringing the system together, bringing an orchestration together. That is the mindset thinking that needs to shift at the government, and it's unfair to blame any government. Every government will have always less resources because they're running on taxpayers' money, and it's a democratic government, so that is not going to go away. It's just the problem-solving ability to bring people together is what needs to change.
Yeah, the systems approach. I agree. Yeah. So, Aman, how do we move forward from here?
Roshan, can you hear us? So there's Roshan with us. Roshan, can you hear? He's just been kind. Is on the chat. He's shared 2 documents, which he says are his responses to Parali burning. And Roshan, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I'm just in a bad network area somewhere in rural Punjab, so I can only be on audio. But most of my comments are, I guess, encapsulated in the documents. I'm happy to say a few words if that is useful.
Yes, please do.
Okay. So my name is Roshan. It's a pleasure to meet all of you. It's also a new set of people that I'm meeting on air pollution in some ways, except for maybe Devinder ji and Sarika ji, who I've read their works and seen their works before. I come at it more from a lens of having seen the problem from maybe a few different vantage points. I have an academic background that's in civil environmental engineering, air quality data, satellites, where I've seen the problem at least as an academic and where these pollution models work. I've also worked in the Delhi government as an advisor for about 6.5 years. So I've seen how the state sees it. And now I have a company which is working on air pollution and stubble burning. So I've seen maybe how the banking system, investors, funders, and corporates look at it. I think I agree with Smita ji a lot. I don't think no one wakes up and says, "Chalo, North India ki hawa ko kharab karte hain," right? So, but also we also have to understand that while it may not be sort of malice that's leading to bad outcomes, sometimes it's also definitely, as you say, incentives or directions. So, for example, there are many solutions which are potentially labor intensive and are more grassroots based. But maybe government chooses ones which are much more capital intensive, right? So we choose capital intensive solutions in a labor intensive agricultural system. It's bound to have some friction. So in the one pager, what I've done is, I think I've tried to piece together where I feel potential scopes for improvement are with each stakeholder in the system. Now, whether that is bureaucracy, technocracy, or democrats, whether that's the courts, legislature, or the executive, but also importantly, whether it is companies, startups, different kinds of non-profits, journalists. So I've sort of put those, at least what I think are potentially useful ways of looking at it. And I think in the next 6 to 8 months, we should have a program that sort of tries to do all of them in Jalandhar. And I'm a Tamilian and half a Malayali, but I sort of love Punjab quite a bit. So I've moved to Punjab because I sort of felt that nothing really was happening from Delhi. And at times, to connect the dots, one may have to go to where the problem is. So as I agree with everyone, I don't think the Punjabi farmer is at fault for sure. Stubble burning, technically, in my opinion, is the best solution for the cost at which gets the job done, whatever it does, and at the timeline in which it gets it done. So at least my experience is, if we are able to give them a better solution, for example, which maybe I was able to for my small area near Jalandhar, which is to just buy the problem off them and figure out just with good capital what to do with it. So patient capital that can spend some time, make parali into a commodity, which can be traded later, can be useful. And I do know that there's a glut of requirement for parali in the summer months when Rajasthan doesn't have the problem. So it's a simple parali buying problem, warehousing problem in some ways. It's a yearly, maybe 10, 15,000 crore problem. So if we threw that money at that problem, that's one way of just capital resolving it. I would ideally want the government to buy it when they're buying the rice. So if you can buy the rice, why not buy the straw at the same time at the mandis itself? But if not, the private sector has to organize itself around some of these ideas. And there's a lot of ways, I think, still to make impact. I think I've seen this problem for now 6, 7 years now. I'm personally affected by it in many ways, as is my family. But I think there are scopes where one can intervene. So, for example, Deloitte and SAP's interventions in Haryana have made at least stubble burning substantially better in about 9 districts this year. Just helping the existing system with capacity and some good people and some good technology can, I think the Haryana numbers, the untold stories that Deloitte and SAP have probably saved a lot of district magistrates and the Haryana government's face this time. I think similarly, we just need more problem solvers. So instead of saying this solution is right or wrong, we need 100 academics looking at this. I do have a grouse with about 3 or 4 of the academics and bureaucrats in the current system. But instead of going after them, it's probably better to empower 100 others who are doing better. So I think 3 very, very specific things I'd like to say, which I think will help a lot, is I think one, at least from the government, as a private sector person, one issue is that banks, investors and grantors of any kind don't treat parali as a potential CSR activity. Neither do they treat it as a commodity. And now, for example, if I want to do a bioethanol plant or if I want to do a biogas plant myself, in any other business, I probably need only 1 month's working capital. In the parali business, I need the 12 months working capital upfront because I need to collect it during the season in which parali is a problem, right? So there is very few companies, funds, grantors, banks, NBFCs right now who are willing to give a business 12 months working capital upfront. I think that's solving that problem in a way that doesn't put a tremendous amount of stress on them, and also having a good insurance product along with it will help a lot of Parali businesses to boom. Because warehousing in itself is not very remunerative because it's a very low value product, and warehousing a low value product does not give that much revenue as, for example, warehousing Amazon products gives to a warehousing person. So I think that's what I have to say from the sort of private sector side on stubble burning per se. There's a lot of other things to say, which I've said in my document. I think from the academic side, there should be an initiative to fund young professors, assistant professors, associate professors at IIT Delhi, IIT Bombay, IISc. So just like there is centralization in most of our companies and governments, there is extreme centralization in academia. So you'll find, and I'm sorry to say, but extremely poor ideas or extremely old ideas of doing certain things, cannibalizing most of the money that the government of India or Supreme Court throws at our IITs. So I think as culpable as we think the governments are, I think the university systems, the heads of departments at several IITs, IIScs, have actually killed a lot of academic careers, a lot of great ideas. So the positive way of saying that would be, let's try to fund people who are below the age of 40 and have fantastic ideas and give them money to do something. And the problem is that most of these really high quality people, their nature as an academic itself is not to be combative. So they are not going to flag this out to you and say, hey, my head of department is actually eating all 10 crores of the funding for a company probably that he's doing. And this happens in IIT Kanpur, this happens in IIT Bombay, it happens in IIT Delhi. I just haven't heard of it in Indian Institute of Science. But I think it's a really deep malaise, because when we do that, we are getting the science wrong. And when we get the science wrong, all the commentary that any of you are doing is completely off, because you're attacking a problem which doesn't exist. And I think the third point which I'd like to say is that district magistrates seem to be the best place to do a lot of action, at least in my experience over the last 3 months in Punjab. They're very progressive. They're extremely interested in doing some things. Maybe some things change after they get to a secretariat and see too much power or money. But at least as of now, I've met at least 13 of the 23 Punjab DMs. Extremely, really good people. I mean, there's a few rotten apples there too, but they really want to do something. So a lot of non-profits, a lot of multilateral organizations, a lot of think tanks tend to focus only on the state government and the national government. Maybe because it is more prestigious, maybe because there is greater social proof there. But if the Deloitte SAP example and at least my last 3-4 months of experience are any indication, I think the district magistrates are really forward-looking. They just need to find ways to unlock some capital, some resources, and just do the nitty-gritties of things instead of just talking about really large-scale, state-level, regional, national policy. So fund young people, do work at districts, and at least try to find different people who can solve, I think, sub-problems. I think those are some of my ideas. The rest are all in my presentations. I'm happy to connect on WhatsApp if that's useful ever.
Thanks, Roshan. Thanks, Roshan. You've given us rise, though. There's something that is close to Sir's and ours heart. As Janiti, we have put in a concept called Impact Lab, which is working with DM Lab, with the DM's office only. So I think we'll share a document on that very soon, and we'll incorporate your suggestions as well. We'll go through it. So.
Yeah, we've gone through a lot of mill today to understand the problems, to understand the implications, to understand the potential solutions. And we find that various points of view are unanimous on the belief or on the future course of action, that yes, we need some sort of a non-systemic model, some sort of an eclectic approach, which can be done at the micro level with the help of incentives and disincentives, by utilizing the energies and the brain power of the younger generation of smaller organizations with young professionals. This is some sort of idea, I think, that needs to be observed more carefully, and maybe it has to be cultivated to reality. But before we do that, I think we should get back to Devinder ji, who's I think put a lot of effort into this type of work. After hearing others, we would like to know what he has to say on this, on all the reactions that have come. Can we request Dr. Mr. Devinder Sharma, please? If he's here still in the meet.
He is, sir.
Yeah, hello. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Listening to this wonderful presentation, I would say, from each one was very enlightening and given me lots of food for thought. I just would like to add on in the connection of air pollution. The biggest problem that Punjab faces is paddy. Everyone agrees that we need to diversify from paddy, because paddy, of course, is also a water guzzler. Let's not forget that. And paddy is a crop which was forced onto Punjab. It wasn't a crop of Punjab earlier. But the interesting part here is now, since it has expanded to cover 32 lakh hectares, and farmers are not willing to diversify for reasons of economics, we all know, because they don't find the alternate economics that we are suggesting workable. And so they will like to hang on to paddy, which is very right. Everyone wants the right kind of package at the end of the day, and farmers would also like to see that they can make money. That is one. But my worry is, in this quest to push all these options that we have, whether we are setting up plants or whether we want, company A, corporate B, or, the government C to come in and try to address this problem of stubble burning by using it, by what they say, making wealth out of the waste. Are we not actually pushing the crop diversification agenda to the back burner? Because all these machines, all these biofuel plants, or all these other things that we are trying to come up with require a steady flow of raw material, which in this case is paddy stubble. So as long as these companies have to survive, they will continue to need paddy stubble. And if you need that kind of a paddy stubble, I said 200 lakh tons we already have. If you want to continue with that to sustain this industry, whether it is the machines or whether it is the biofuels or whatever the other options coming up, I think we need to be very clear. That means we are deviating from the basic issue of wanting a crop diversification from Punjab. Why I'm worried about this is, as everyone would perhaps agree, we try to address one problem and create 4 more problems. And we believe technology would take care of all those problems. It can't happen. I believe in technology, but I'm not a worshipper of technology. I think we all need to be very careful when we try to come up with these alternatives with our suggestions, solutions, and so on. I'm just hoping that somewhere we will draw a line, see kitni machine chahiye, kitne plants lagane hain humne, and how do we ensure ki we are able to diversify the paddy crop or move from paddy crop to other options that have been suggested off and on. So mera submission ye hai ki air pollution ko control karte karte ye na ho ki we have created another problem which we don't want to get away, or we have no option to move away from. I think that is a bigger worry for me. And I think somewhere, as was mentioned by our speaker, one of our speakers, that kind of vision, that kind of understanding is missing at the policy level. To when we say कि systemic changes होनी चाहिए, तो systemic में ये भी होना चाहिए कि we need to see कि भी in future जो हमारे program है वो कहाँ जा रहे हैं, and are we going to look forward to a long-term solution to a crisis that has, of course, diverted attention to short-term solutions. तो मुझे लगता है कहीं ये ना हो कि in this entire exercise we sacrifice the main shift that Punjab needs, which is to move away from paddy. And let us not forget, it is not only here, sir, if you allow me a minute more, it is not only here that we talk about in the connection of air pollution. See, when we have to export, then we say, nahi, rice zyada paida kariye, we can export. Last year, we had exported about 21, 22 million tons of rice. And this year we stopped those exports because because they were anticipating in the Kharif season there would be a shortfall, and we know it is going to be about 3-4 million tons, and we have already stopped our exports. But interestingly, even now there is a pressure to open up to exports, because when you that would mean that there is an economic activity which is coming to a standstill or is losing out. But the fact of the matter here, Aman, is that if you allow these companies or these initiatives or these pressure groups to act and say ki nahi, we need to produce more to export, and then we at the same time say nahi, Punjab farmers are to be blamed for guzzling the groundwater or so on, I think that is not fair. Somewhere we will have to be very careful, watchful, and that can come up from the top. This kind of a direction or understanding can also come up from the top, saying, look, you are doing this, but be careful that we don't end up. Now, for instance, in Punjab, it is very interesting. You require 5,000 liters of water to produce 1 kilo of rice, which means the kind of rice we grow in Punjab, we require at least roughly about 52 trillion liters of water. And when we are exporting this, or let's say sending it to all different parts of the deficit areas in this country, we are exporting virtual water. But interestingly, even domestically, I have no problems. If Punjab's rice is taking care of Odisha's requirement on food security and so on. But my worry is when we export 21 million tons of rice from the country, we are exporting actually 82 trillion liters of water. Now, that is something which we as policy, we should be all concerned about, because you cannot go on exporting and build up that kind of infrastructure and eventually create another huge problem for this country. I think I expect the your discussion that you laid out, Aman, to be very useful in this connection. We all looked at it from different perspective, and I'm sure there would be a convergence, which I'm sure the organizers would be able to maybe take a step forward now and carry it forward in that sense that in the bargain we don't move away from our basic objective of diversifying, crop diversification, and be exporting virtual water. When we all believe that the third world war is likely to be on the issue of water, and we are very happily or merrily exporting virtual water, I think there has to be some understanding or some clarity on that point also. So I hope, sir, you will try to bring in a different perspective and also try to give us a kind of a roadmap on which we should produce, taking care of this, taking care of that, and taking care of future threats. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks,
I think that was a very, very highly analytical approach to the whole issue. Especially when you talked of exporting water, it's a new concept and something which can be digested easily, because water is going to be more and more scarce as time passes, as we see into the next few decades. Ultimately, the war will be on water rather than anything else. And I think it may take a decade or so to change the habit or the system as it exists. We can't do it overnight. That's something we have to also realize. Shifting from one crop to other crop, which is needed in the country rather than exported. I think it would take time. It would take some more incentivization probably, or change of economic subsidies or whatever. But all in all, I think you have taken a very mature and a very, very enlightened approach to the whole issue that yes, we need change. How it has to be done needs to be studied in a more analytical manner. And you also said that systems will, incentives, for example, will not act on their own unless they are properly directed. I think that's a very, very mature and learned statement which you made. Now, this challenge continues with us now. We will try to put all the knowledge or experts have brought together. I think it will make a very good compendium of thought processes that are going through. Mostly enlightened thoughts that have come to us. We'll try to put it together and see what use can be made out of it. Thank you, sir. Vandaji.
Okay.
I would like to also thank all our other participants for taking time out to be with us today and speak on this sensitive topic. And we got really very good material input, many levels of thought, many traits of thought that we can absorb and needs to be considered very seriously, especially the systems approach incentivization, creation of new non-profit or non-profit organization, and better appreciation by the policy. That is what will go a long way for us to take care. Maybe economic solutions can come out and solve this social problem. That's what for that needs to be incentivized, and instead of suffering for a decade or so before natural processes are set in, it is better that we conceive of a well thought of plan of action, and I think that should save us from the misery of 2 months of Rally every year and destroying and spoiling many lives. I think that's a very, very mature approach we should be able to take. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'd like to thank all of
Thanks,
Aman,
everyone.
you want
Thanks,
to add
Ravinderji.
something? Yeah.
Thank
Would you like to say?
अब हम ही है सर.
हाँ ठीक